This is Listening with Franklin Livingston, and our guest is Jason Lamberth.
So today we have Jason Lamberth from New
Yeah.
York City.
Mm-hmm.
Jason is a furniture designer
Mm-hmm.
and an actor too. And
Yeah.
you're flying out to Atlanta, Georgia right after this talk.
Yeah.
So my best wishes to you.
Yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Thank you.
So you came back to the acting world. You took a break. You were in Europe.
Mm.
But where did it all start? Where was your early childhood and how was it like to be at home?
So I grew up in the South in Florida. Um,
You were born there?
I was born in Orlando, Florida, where Disney World is.
I have seen Disney World.
Yeah. So
That's about it.
well, it was a great place to grow up, actually. You know, my house was in a suburb that used to be an orange grove. So every house had orange trees, and we had grapefruit trees. It was a paradise that I took for granted because it was just there. But we had so many oranges that companies would come by to and pay us to pick our trees, and we'd still have more oranges than we knew what to do with. I mean, we couldn't eat them all. I mean, it was like that. I'm just this abundance of stuff. And then of course Disney World came along, and it was when I was born when it was is when it was built. And every time my relatives came, we'd go to Disney, and so I knew that place like the back of my hand. I knew all the rides, I knew the everything. So it was a great place to grow up, and I grew up in a sports kind of family, and so I played football, and I got a scholarship to play football at the University of Florida,
Oh, cool.
and I was really good. I could have gone pro. I would have gone. You know, I started when I was a sophomore. I was, you know, but I got hurt. I had 3 surgeries in a year, and then and that time was a big turning point in my life, and that's when I got into a play and decided, okay, I'm going to New York. And that's how I got to
So
New
the
York.
play was in Florida?
The play was in Gainesville, where I was going to school. It was a community theater. It was musical theater. It was a Stephen Sondheim musical company. I had no idea. I had no clue. I just saw I saw there was an audition, and I just like pulled in. I'm like, hey, well, I'm on an audition. What's going on here? And they said, yeah, bring back 2 songs tonight. It's at 7. Come back. That was, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I came back. I sang "Happy Birthday" for them in a funny way, and they got a kick out of that. And then I sang "Zippity Doo Dah" from the Disney thing. And long story short, I got the part, and then I loved it. And then I got a director saw me and said, "Look, I'll pay you to be in a children's theater version of Wizard of Oz." So I was the Tin Man. And after that, I was like, I'm hooked. I'm going to New York. So I gave up my full scholarship. People thought I was completely nuts because I had a full ride. Everything was paid for.
This was high school scholarship or college?
College, yeah. So everything was paid for. I had an apartment. After I got hurt, they paid for the apartment. They paid for everything, and I could have easily just finished that up. But I was so excited about acting. I was like, now this is what I'm going to do with my life now, and I just went to New York. Um, got into American Musical and Dramatic Academy, AMDA. Um, and I actually loved it. I mean, it was kind of funny because I still was big because had been playing football. Um, and I was going to these ballet classes and tap dance classes and singing classes. It was really cool. But after a year, I realized I wanted more acting than musical theater. And
So if I may ask,
yeah.
back then, what were the demographics when it came to men and women? When I joined an acting conservatory, I noticed not only in my school but other schools too, there were more females and less men. Actually, very few. The percentage was very, very low. So back then it was the same, or it was different?
Yeah. I mean, when I got accepted eventually into Rutgers master's
Oh
theater
wow,
program. Yeah.
Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I studied with Bill Esper and Maggie Flanagan and a lot of nice, like there was the Lloyd Williamson technique. He was the movement, and that was really good.
I think Williamson. Yeah, I got introduced to Williamson technique at Tisch NYU.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's great. Yeah,
yeah.
dance
It
and
was
martial
great.
arts
You
and
know, I just
movement.
loved it. I just loved being immersed in the whole thing, and it was great. So the but there it was balanced. It was um balanced between male and female. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But I
Because
would
they
say,
have only this many people, so they would say,
I
okay, we want eight. Okay,
yeah.
I don't know. You had
I
16
think
people or 14?
it was 16 around there.
Yeah, that's the
16, 20, something like that.
standard. Yeah.
Yeah. Um at AMDA musical theater, there were definitely more women than men.
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember that.
Cool. So
Yeah.
let's go back to
Yeah.
your childhood again.
Yeah.
So oranges and football.
Yeah.
But you mentioned you came out of a sports family.
Yeah.
So how was the family at home, the parents, and I really want to hear about the belief system.
I mean, I had a pretty as perfect as I could imagine a childhood. I mean, I had three sisters and one brother, all older, so I was the youngest of five. And I was 5 years younger than my next sibling, which was my brother, they were all 1.5 years apart. There was like a system, boom, 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 boom. But I was sort of like an afterthought, which made me, I mean, I was even more spoiled as the youngest. My oldest was my sister, and we have a very great relationship. But we're very close, all of us. So,
Oh, great. Till today.
yeah, till
Yeah.
today, yeah.
And it was a middle class.
Middle
Would you
class.
say?
I was the first child where my mother wasn't there. They all, my mom didn't work, but by the time I came along, the whole, the system had changed pretty quick. Like it was mostly, not a whole lot of people had their moms didn't work. They were stay-at-home moms back then when I was growing up in the 70s. Um,
And your parents were born in the U.S. or
they're from
they?
Tennessee. Yeah.
And their parents, I'm assuming, moved here from somewhere.
I mean, we don't. I mean, I think Ireland or we don't really know that. I mean, we haven't really looked at it, to be honest with you. Not
So
not back
you're
too
not one
far.
of
Like,
those who'll pay 30, $100 or whatever
yeah,
and
yeah,
get your DNA
yeah,
tested.
yeah. But I think interestingly enough, my grandmother, she was sort of had some Cherokee Indian in her,
Oh.
and she had long. I think maybe that's where my hair color comes from because she had long silver hair as well. Yeah, but Irish, I think, maybe a little German in there as well.
So your parents were from white collared background, if you will.
My father grew up on a farm. I mean, really poor. He was one of 11 children. They all worked on a farm. It was a working farm.
In Tennessee?
Right outside of Nashville. The town he was in was about 300 people. So it was small and rural. And I went there every summer, and it was great because we were like the city folk. And then all my cousins, of course, I had a million cousins because I had, 11 aunts and uncles.
Wow.
Um,
And you guys like hung out?
we did. We all got along. We all
Wow.
we would come every summer,
It's like a mini tribe or
and
something.
and it was like a retreat for all of us because we got to work on the farm, which they thought we were crazy. But when we came up, like we would get to bale hay. I get to drive the tractor, and my brother would be back there putting hay on the tractor, and we had cows and horses, and they did a lot of uh, hay, and soybeans were really big too. So yeah, all kinds of crops, all kinds of crops, tobacco.
So at home, going back to this belief
Yeah.
system, what was the most focused talk, like what was emphasized? Say mannerism, education, religion. What was it like? This is very important for us as a family.
Definitely, I grew up in a very religious family. We went to church every Sunday, and Sunday night, and then sometimes Wednesday night. Very active. My father was a deacon in the Baptist church, which is um, sort of like, yeah, like a leader, but didn't go
But
to.
does the deacon in Baptist system preach also,
No,
or
no.
it's more
He
management
he's
related?
more for instance, he might usher people in when they come in on Sunday. He would help out. So
Mhm.
it's a leadership role in a in sort of in some of the administrative things in the church. Also, he would meet with the pastors, and there were other. They would go meet with families. Some I think once a week they would go out and meet with
Just to
families.
counsel them or
Just
encourage
yes, yeah,
them.
just to check in and see
Yeah,
how you're doing, and if you need anything, that kind of stuff.
right.
So
So was there a great sense of community because of that
there was a
church?
great
Was
sense
the
of community. Yeah,
okay
I mean,
because of
we
the church, like being the
yeah,
center of the community,
that was our. So it was either sports, which was a lot.
which still is a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of like.
yeah, and then it was church. But the order was always church. You know, God, family, then whatever you
Mhm.
do. That was kind of
And what about your mom? She was aligned with that belief system, even
yeah.
if it wasn't the same denomination, but in
Hmm.
general, like the order was the same.
Yeah, when I was young, we went to a Methodist church because that's the church that my parents went to when they grew up in Tennessee. When my dad went to Orlando for his job, then we started in a Methodist church, and then well, it was a Baptist church. That was like a movement in a way. It was sort of like
The
every all of a
Baptist
sudden
church.
The Baptist church grew really fast. Yeah.
I heard from someone, but I don't have accurate information on this. But was Baptist Church also very much into Disney World, or it had
I
some
would
sort
say
of
so. I
connection?
would say so. Yeah, sure. I mean, we definitely had uh, events there, um, 2 or 3 times a year at least, from a church, like as a church, to go there. And,
The reason I'm
yeah.
saying this, I have seen that, and I have conversation with some people, but those people were not historically informed or did not live through that era. But I've seen these cult type communities or families. If you go to their home, everything is so Disney based, like even their mugs
Mm-hmm.
and decorations,
Mm-hmm.
or even a Christmas tree
Yeah.
has all Disney
Yeah.
ornaments. So I asked someone, and they said, there was a time uh, there was some sort of integration, or the church, especially the
I.
Baptist church in the South, was
Mm-hmm.
kind of like saying Mickey Mouse is like Jesus Christ, a savior figure, etc. Those kind of things.
Um, well, like in the circles that I was in, that wasn't the case. But my family, we went to Disney, but we weren't like Disney freaks in terms of like I have a nephew and my niece. He has a timeshare, so they go every year as a
Mm-hmm.
family, and they have like 4 kids. They go there every year, and they have a lot of Disney stuff. My family, we didn't really, but we were there a lot. Like and it wasn't just Walt Disney World. There were uh, River Country, which was water slides, and all this stuff back then. Now I can't remember what it is now, but um,
Uh, I don't.
it's huge. I was down there just a couple of weeks ago, and I don't really recognize, or I
Things,
don't
yeah,
anymore.
things have changed.
I mean,
So for you, it was more like a amusement. It wasn't
yeah, yeah.
adoration to
No,
this.
no, no.
I
But
like the
but it
phrase
was
Disney freak.
like like when I was a senior in high school, we went there as like it was our senior night. So there were high schools all over Florida that would go there and have their senior nights there, and they would you'd have the whole park, and it was just high school seniors.
Mhm.
Um, there was always something like that. Like if you graduation parties, you would go to Disney.
Because
Yeah,
that was closer to
yeah, it was
you,
close.
right?
Yeah,
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 and it
yeah,
was available
yeah,
there.
yeah. It was available. Yeah.
So this,
It's cultish, definitely Disney.
but not
It's
for
cultish.
everybody.
It is cultish. I mean, church is cultish.
Yeah. So
I
talk
mean,
about the church. So your upbringing in this Baptist tradition,
mm,
and I'm assuming like when you were really young, it was more Methodist. Later on, it became more
hmm
Baptist.
yeah, yeah.
So how was it for you and your mom? It was welcomed, or it was more like, okay, I gotta now get immersed to be baptized? I don't know what was going
I
on.
mean, I think so I remember, and I was the youngest, so I was younger than my older siblings. I just remember we made a big switch, and then we all got baptized. So
As
yeah, yeah,
adult,
yeah.
teenage, or...
Like my mother was already baptized when she was younger, but the rest of us hadn't been baptized yet. Dunked underwater, which is what they do in the Baptist church.
Yeah,
In the Methodist church, they just sprinkle water on you.
right. Yeah.
And I think I had that. And for whatever reason, we wanted to be legit and get the full dunk. Um,
Legit.
yeah. I think
But
at the
it
point,
was willfully, or it was because your dad wanted you to?
well, I mean, it was certainly willful, but I don't think there, there. It's not like we couldn't go to church. Like I couldn't just say, oh, you guys are going to church today. I'm okay. I'm not going to go. We all went to church. So while we all did it, we were all happy. We didn't have a choice. Yeah, yeah,
But even then, uh, did it have some positive influence on
absolutely.
you
Yeah,
or not?
yeah. It did have positive influence. Yeah,
In what
I
way?
think. I think the community. I do think. And I mean, this is getting. I don't know how deep we're going to go, but. Um,
As deep as you would like to.
I mean, I'm happy to go deep because it's something that's probably in the South there's religion and then there's football.
Hmm.
And I don't know which one is more important in some ways.
I think in the
In
Midwest
this,
it's the football,
yeah, yeah,
but I haven't been to the
yeah, yeah.
South, so I
Now,
don't know.
now you would never say football than God, but football players, and I mean, to reach the level that I reached, which was a scholarship athlete, which is like 3% of high school football players
Hmm.
get to play that, maybe less. I don't know.
So you were the
So I was
cream of
very, very
creams.
like I knew this is my calling. This is what I'm supposed to do in life. This is where I'm going to go. My experience with the religion was I was always religious in a way. Like I took to there was definitely like I went to Sunday school and I learned all the scriptures in the Bible and I did all the vacation Bible schools, which you do in the summer. Like it's a whole thing. It's like it's basically a curriculum. Um, I think for me, there was like it was all connected. Like this is what God made you to do. You're a football player and you're a this and you're a that and you're a that. And then that's what you do. So for me, it was like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is where I'm going to go. And this is how I'm going to, there is somewhat of a contract internally of like, okay, I got you, you got me, make sure I don't get hurt, and then I'll talk about you. And this is I do feel like you see a lot of athletes. First of all, I want to thank God. First of all, I want to thank the man upstairs. Usually, they say I want to thank the man upstairs because it's much less provocative. I think.
Yeah, in the US actually,
Yeah, yeah,
it's very interesting.
yeah.
A lot of people don't like this God language.
Well,
Even the term, like
mm,
especially in this acting world and all,
yeah,
I think people might say the universe,
yeah, yeah.
higher energy.
Yeah, I think what's going on, at least for me, and I think it's also changed a lot, but like there's this contract, like you talk about God. So in the Baptist religion in general,
Mhm.
Methodist is less more trying to um, uh, convert or share your faith to people. And I think that's in the Baptist, it's much more, okay, share get out, get out. Whereas Methodist is like your religion is yours, and it's,
So it's social
keep it to
justice
yourself. Yeah,
based more.
keep it to yourself.
If God has given
Yeah,
to you something, you extend that love and
yeah, yeah,
grace.
yeah.
Whereas in some traditions, you gotta go save people,
Right,
right?
right, yeah. And I,
And
I and I think there's sort of like a you kept score, like, oh, 15 people got saved this Sunday. Because
right.
I went to big churches. I mean, there were 3 to 4,000 auditorium. Like the church it was a lot of people, and they would have two of those every Sunday, and then one at night. So that's 15,000 people. I don't know.
And they had altar
20.
calls.
Yeah, yeah. And so
That's what they called it, right?
altar
Yeah,
calls. Yeah,
yeah.
sure. And so there is an element of um, superstition too. Like you pray before the game, and yeah, I
Is it
think.
becoming more of a, sorry to interrupt, but ritual, I would say, without having any
Well,
deeper meaning to it?
well, I think ritual imply that it does have meaning, and this was much more transactional in terms of like my football coach in high school was also religious, and so he told me, you're going to be the president of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which is an organization for high school athletes, and it's a Christian organization, and each high school has their group, and I'm going to be the president of that. And I didn't really feel like I had a choice. I didn't necessarily want to be it, uh, but at the same time, it's like, you kind of feel compelled, like, oh, okay, so God gave me this body. Like, this is how you're thinking as a high school kid. So I guess I got to do it. Eventually, I ended up saying, like, I don't really want to do this. My heart's not in it. So,
Mm.
but that was the point I'm trying to make is there was a lot of this sort of the religious side of it was kind of forced on me in a way. I felt it anyway. Um, and as I've gotten older, I realized, okay, well, that's not really, if it's forced on you, then to me, it's not from God, which he doesn't have to force
Because
anything,
I would say,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
because it's more like your circumstances, which I see in Islamic countries,
yeah,
where you just somehow have to bring in God, or a lot of people in media or sports, they would just enforce the idea I'm a Muslim, or they
mm-hmm,
would say,
mm-hmm,
"Oh, I want to thank Allah." They would
yeah,
say
yeah,
the Arabic version
yeah,
of
yeah,
God,
yeah,
and it's just because that's what public expects
yeah,
you to.
yeah. There's definitely a lot of
Yeah,
expectation involved in the whole thing, and I do feel that that was something for me, and I would imagine for most other athletes too, have to at some point deal with, because there is this sort of element of I don't know, it cheapens it in a way. And to
mm.
me, like, it's
Hmm.
that for me, like, that's that's about numbers. And
As you mentioned that when you grew older, you realize this was forced upon you
mm-hmm,
somehow.
mm-hmm,
But when you were younger, and you were like, okay, I got you, you got me.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, but did you ever feel you were in alignment or not in an alignment with the teachings or whatever your influence was, whether the Bible or the church?
I did, yeah. No, I don't want to come across and say that there wasn't, like, um I did get I did get the community. I did get the, the wisdom of the things, of the teachings. I think a lot of the memorization that I was kind of had to do, that really helped me, coming back, because I definitely there's truths in all religions that are undeniable. um, and I do think that a lot of those truths get diluted and reinterpreted from a business perspective of like, okay, we got to grow this church, and we got to grow this whole movement, and this is how we're going to do it. And I don't think that that has anything to do with uh, the scriptural,
Right.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's a more man-made thing, because I think all churches actually, I mean, I think it's good to be able to talk around with people and have community and groups and stuff like that, but I don't think it has anything to do with uh, fortifying the kingdom. Like it's all subjective. And that's the temple on the inside, and I think that that's. But at the same time, I have been much more critical. So for me, uh, it worked. It worked. I got a scholarship. I didn't get hurt, anything. And then when I got to college, I had 3 knee surgeries in less than a year. And each knee surgery, there was a lot of prayer and there was a lot of stuff like that. And when it didn't work, like after the third knee surgery, and I had to quit playing, which was that was my dream. And that was like an identity, like something like like my arm got cut off or something, like a part of you gets um ended. It's over. And it was very, like that. That's when I really started to question this whole thing. Wait a second now. I held up my end of the bargain. Like I even did stuff that I didn't want to do. And this is
Then
how,
you
and
left
like
me.
what and what is this? But that's also a young,
Mm.
interpretation, a young mind. But that 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 was definitely my experience. Like that was the first moment of like, wait a second, questioning the whole system, because prior to that there was no reason for me to question it,
Mm.
because it worked for me. It and I do think there is a level of just some of the principles of most religions are, temperate, and like honesty, and all of these like harbingers of what we build things on, faith, hope, love, and those things last forever. So those are truths that, you know and I think where as as humans, where we have to really start to reconcile that is like, okay, if I'm honest with myself, I got mad at God because he didn't hold up his end of the bargain. But now, as an adult, looking back at a 20-year-old's mindset, holding him ransom, holding God ransom, like, wait a second, like, you're supposed to do this,
Right, right.
So,
I have
yeah,
something funny I'll share too. When we were really young, we used to smoke once in a while,
hmm
hiding from the parents,
yeah, yeah,
right? And if there was something bad that was going around us, or say we ran into some sort of shitty situation, which might be now it doesn't really make any big sense, or like it might be trivial, but then it was like, oh yeah, I lost my $5 as
yeah,
an example.
yeah, yeah,
So the idea was that, oh, we smoked
yeah, yeah,
and God
yeah,
wasn't happy.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's why it happened.
yeah, yeah,
Oh, and then we would say, okay, I'm not gonna smoke.
yeah,
Okay, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
after a few months, we forget that,
yeah, yeah,
and then we repeat it.
yeah,
But later on, I think now, as I say, I don't know if God is that free or he has. It's like, like some people say, you always blame the devil. Do you think devil is just staying there only for
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, yeah,
He has a
yeah,
lot of other
yeah,
things to
yeah,
take
yeah,
care of.
yeah,
But I understand that mindset. I think, yeah, that's very interesting because you grew up in that kind of mindset.
yeah.
But
Well,
talking about, sorry, I
yeah,
interrupted.
yeah. Sorry.
Um, but talking about this love, I was when you were saying about love, and I was thinking of, I think it's First Corinthians chapter 13, and
Mm-hmm.
he ends with the love, the
Mm-hmm.
Apostle Paul, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I think it is rooted in the tradition or the environment you grew up in,
for sure. Yeah.
where that fear has been introduced.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, it might be at early age as a child. That okay, if you do wrong, then you're gonna get punished.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the idea of love and grace is not really talked about because fear does give you control, and some community leaders want to have control, whether the
Mm-hmm.
pastors
Yeah.
or outside the church. It could
Mm-hmm.
be non
Mm-hmm.
religious setting too, and some parents do that.
Yeah. Also, I think if I think one aspect that this, growing up where I grew up, and the church that I grew up in, the 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 Bible was really interpreted literally.
Mm.
However, if you really read some of the stuff and you take it literally, it doesn't make sense. For instance, like don't God said don't kill, and then God's telling Moses, yeah, go and just kill those whole, there's a lot of symbolism that gets interpreted as literal
Mm.
historical things, and I think that that's one of the probably the main reasons why there's so much disconnect, where you can't look at, when you look, like when I read now, and not just the Bible but other spiritual texts, I don't look at it literally, especially first. The first thing I do is look at it. What are the symbols meaning? Okay,
Mm.
there's all kinds of numerology and numbers,
Mm.
and they're on 7 days. That's there's all this
Mm.
stuff, like there were 400 years the Israelites were well, there's in the Hebrew language, 400 has a symbol, and there's all this other stuff which is too complicated to get into
Mhm.
here. But the point that I'm trying to make is that this, if you get in and start to learn the symbolism of any of the text, because they're all highly symbolic, uh, just like Shakespeare is symbolic too.
Mhm.
Like the three witches. The three. These are clues for somebody that's a real seeker, like a mystical. Uh, the, you'll start to be able to interpret things. All the old texts are so symbolic, but they all knew that language back then. And now I think maybe the good thing about these emojis and is some of that maybe coming back.
Mhm.
Like when you see the smiley face with this thing, that's a hug, but you wouldn't really know that's a hug. Like,
I
what
really
does
have
that
to
thing mean?
look that up. I don't
Yeah,
remember phone.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But the point is that we know these emoji symbols, and we can send them to each other,
Right.
and we can trust that they're going to understand the language. Now there's, it's not cut and dried, but
Mhm.
for the most part, and I think when these texts were written, um they were written with that emoji mindset of like, they're going to know what this means. But now things have kind of lost that.